Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. Marco D'Angelo joined in studio with Preston, the Sports Cheetah, and Brian Leonard. This has become a very popular segment. It is the question and answers with the Sports Cheetah. Of course, each week you can ask any of us a question as well. Send in your tweets each week or email us, and we'll answer your questions here in the videos. Guys, we got a few of them this week, and let's start with L.A. Whiz Kid. He wants to know, Oklahoma City, are they a legitimate threat? And that's, starting to be the buzz team. Oklahoma City, they're flashy. They score a lot of points. We've seen this. For me, I've seen this movie all too many times. Until they really start playing hard-nosed defense, I can't get excited about them. But, guys, what do you think?
Yeah, we talked about this a little more in depth, too, I think, last week on a video when we were talking about if they had any chance against the Cavs, if they met in the finals, and what that price would be. I still don't think they have any shot of getting there personally. Obviously, if they somehow did beat the Spurs and then they got a Steph Curry-less Warriors team, they'd probably beat the Warriors. But I don't think they have a chance to beat the Spurs. It's two guys, they're two of the top 5 players in the league, and then it's nobody else. They're a lot worse than past Oklahoma City teams. I don't think people realize the drop-off from like Reggie Jackson to whoever their Payne is like kind of playing. Randy Foye sometimes playing. You have, instead of Thabo Sefolosha is doing well for the Hawks right now, who used to be there in Oklahoma City, you have Andre Roberson, who can't hit a shot out from the outside. And then Steven Adams and Cantor aren't really what Kendrick Perkins was defensively in the middle for him before. No James Harden off the bench either. It's Dion Waiters. Then you have Donovan as the coach versus Popovich is like the biggest coaching mismatch there is probably in the playoffs. I don't think they have any shot. Plus, you're looking at a Spurs team. It might be the best Spurs team we've had in all the Spurs teams. I mean, they just got overshadowed all year by the Warriors. So personally, I think right now the current price is like minus 300 on the Spurs. I think that's really, really cheap actually to lay it. The Spurs are winning this series way more often than that implies, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're the 4th best team in the NBA, and they have to go on the road and beat 2 of the top 3 on the road without the home field advantage. So good team, just not quite good enough.
Yeah. Segueing into the next question, when I look at San Antonio this year, and the next question's a horse question, reminds me of the battle of Ali Sheba and Affirmed. You had 2 great horses. You had a Triple Crown winner, but unfortunately for the one horse, he was the second best horse all year in a Triple Crown year, and that's what you got with San Antonio and Golden State. Now, unfortunately for Golden State, obviously with the injury changes things, and we'll see what happens in that series if Steph can get back 100%. Jeff English is the guy at Jeff English 88, and he asks, can Mo Heyman bounce back in the Kentucky Derby? He had a horrible Florida Derby, was undefeated heading into that race. Yeah, anything can happen. Personally, I never want to see a horse going backwards the race before the Kentucky Derby. I want to either, it doesn't have to necessarily win the race going in, because a lot of times it's not the horse that won that last prep race, but it's a horse that had a good showing and was improving and actually used the prep race as what it's called, a prep race, getting better shooting for the last one. Mohayman was bad. He had a bad trip outside, off track. You could give him a lot of excuses, but when it was all said and done, Nyquist just ran away from him, and he didn't hold on for second. Some other horses passed him for second and third. He ended up finishing 4th in that race. So he's got a lot of ground to make up to get back into the Derby hunt. But I want to tell everybody to be sure to check out next week. We'll have podcasts. I'll be doing a podcast with Gil Alexander. We'll have that up on the site, and we'll be doing it with Chris Andrews, and I'll be doing some other radio appearances next week. So a lot of Kentucky Derby stuff next week. We'll cover all of that. Getting back to basketball, we've got a question here, or excuse me, we'll go with the basketball one first. Coda 1850. Basically, he's asking, what do you guys think about the Hawks and the Celtics? And I was on the wrong side of that one last night. I thought Boston had gained confidence after, winning the 2 games at home, especially the second game where they had to go to overtime. And, they pulled away from Atlanta. Usually the veteran team gets it to overtime. They're going to, get the win. Boston showed me a lot in that one. But I got to tell you, in the game last night, they were horrible. Atlanta was hitting everything they were putting up. But for the first time, I was not impressed with Brad Stevens as a coach. I don't know what he was doing in the game. I know you tweeted out a couple times last night. he was at time. I thought he was like a deer caught in headlights. What was he doing?
I was very surprised, and you saw I did tweet about it. When they were down 8-11, I think they even cut it in that third quarter early on to 5. And then the Celtics went on this run, and it was like 11, and then it was like 13. And then all of a sudden, and you thought maybe you'd see a timeout, but they didn't. And it was like another turnover, and there's another Hawks 3, and it was like 16. You're like, okay, now you'll see the timeout. No, another Hawks miss, come back. Atlanta hit another 3, it was 19. Same thing happened again. I don't think he called a timeout until they were down 22. Maybe it was 21 or 22.
Yeah, game over.
At that point, you went from, we saw it 2 hours before, you saw a Toronto team down 10 to 12, 14 points, finally get over the hump and make a run, and then they ended up winning the game. From not calling a timeout in that spot, he basically just kind of waved the flag, and for whatever reason, he had 5 or 6 because it was pretty early in the third. Just didn't use them. I don't think he'll ever make that mistake again. You could tell. I think he realized he made a mistake, and the Hawks were, like you said, lights out. They're hitting everything. Bazemore, even Korver finally hit a few threes in the series. He hadn't done anything all series in the playoffs. So yeah, Brad Stevens will adjust. In this game, I think the key was that fourth quarter, Isaiah Thomas got hurt and left and went to the locker room. I haven't heard anything. I think it was more that they were down 30. It didn't matter anymore. Right. So I think he's going to play. I think he'll be fine. But that's the key thing to look for. I'm going to stay away from the game in general. But if he plays for Boston, they definitely have a chance to make this a 7-game series. My
concerns with Boston is, and we were last week on the videos, we picked them in game 3. That was the all-in game, yeah. and they showed up for that game. It wasn't as easy as I think we thought it may be, but they got the cover. But now we've seen enough of it, and Boston just doesn't have enough scorers on that team. And you're playing a team that had the best defense second half of the season in the NBA. And it's just, they're running out. Once you play a team 3, 4, 5, 6 times, the defense really has the edge because they know what you want to do offensively. Yeah. So when you got a limited offense anyway against good defense, as the series goes on, Atlanta wins this. I think they win the next game.
And it's why we see more unders in the playoffs than you do in the regular season. All right, guys, we ran out of time. Darth Vader, we're going to save your question for next week. We ran out of time on this week's videos, but we will hit it next week. And guys, send those questions in. We'll get them answered for you. That's one of the things we like to do here at Wager Talk. We like to interact with you guys and help you guys be better bettors. I'm Marco D'Angelo, and for Preston and Brian Leonard, enjoy the games this week. We'll be back next week with more here at wagertalk.com. And don't forget, every Tuesday, it's $2 Tuesday, you can save big money. Try one of our cappers. We offer their best bet for just $2 each and every Tuesday. It's a great way to introduce yourself to the site or a new capper. And don't forget also, after your first purchase, if you're new to Wager Talk, after your first purchase of $12 or more, email support and your username. We'll put $50 in your account to use any way you like. Thanks for tuning in to wagertalk.com.